Hey you guys, welcome to my positioning video for the lateral ankle. I just wanted to add this video because this is another view that I find techs have problems with as far as telling which direction to rotate the ankle once they've taken an image and they may have to repeat it. So once you know this little trick, you'll never have a problem again telling which way to rotate for your lateral ankle. So let's get started. So we can see here this is a pretty well positioned lateral ankle. Now I'm not going to go into specifics of every aspect of what makes it a perfect lateral other than the talar dome being perfectly superimposed. This is the only thing I'm going to go over in this video, how to find the medial part of the talus and which way to rotate the ankle when you do. There are plenty of ankle positioning videos out there and I don't want to be redundant. So these are just going to be some quick tips and tricks for better positioning. Here again, you see a very nicely positioned ankle. This image is a little bit better. It shows the medial portion of the talus a little more clearly, as you can see this bright white line here. So that's going to be your medial part of the talus. If you can spot this bright white line on your ankle images, you've located the medial talus and the hardest part basically is over. From there, it's just it's a breeze. So here's a little bit better view of the white line. It's pretty definitive here. That's your medial talus right here. So what do we do with this? Well, pretty much the same as the lateral knee video. So we've isolated a landmark by identifying the medial side from the lateral side. And from here again, we're just gonna figure out which way we need to rotate this ankle. So now that we've identified this landmark, the medial talus, we obviously have the lateral part of the talus protruding anteriorly, which means what? Basically too much medial rotation, right? So if we could picture basically the patient's toes coming up off the table towards us, too much medial rotation, which would make the lateral part of the talus protrude forward off the medial side. So either push the patient's toes down if they're flexed up too far, or we can raise the calcaneus off the table a little bit and get that superimposed there. On the other hand, if you have your medial talus here and you've got the lateral portion of the talus protruding posteriorly, then you have too much lateral rotation. Or it can also be stated that the calcaneus is too high or too far raised off the table. So again, we can either push the calcaneus down if it's raised up too high, or we need to take these toes and bring them up off the table, and that'll bring this medial part back onto the lateral portion and we'll get that superimposed. Lastly, if there's any part of the talus that protrudes superiorly, then the plane of the ankle is not in line with the plane of the knee up here, right? So basically the knee is too high off the table in comparison to the ankle, and that's why we're seeing the lateral part of the talus protrude superiorly into the joint space here. You'll see this a lot with patients who have maybe a larger body habitus and their knee is a lot thicker than the ankle by comparison to somebody with a thinner body habitus where everything pretty much falls in line and you get a pretty good joint space here. If the patient was standing and this was weight bearing, again, just like the lateral knee video, they're favoring this ankle. Maybe it's too painful to put that much weight on it. So you still want them to have to bear weight because we want to do a standing ankle, but we're going to take a little bit of weight off this ankle and just make sure the knee is directly centered over the ankle. So what's happening here is the knee's coming off the bucky, coming towards us in this image, and it's raising the lateral side off the medial side of the talus here. So we're going to push that knee back against the bucky, have them center the knee directly over the ankle, and that'll drop this lateral side directly superimposed over the medial side here, and that'll fix your problem. So it's pretty obvious the medial side's here, lateral side sticking up here and into the joint space here. So we have too much medial rotation. Patient's toes are too high off the table. We need to push those back down or raise the calcaneus up off the table a little bit, and that'll rotate this medial side into the lateral side, and we'll get better superimposition there. So here we have the medial side, our white line here, and then we have our lateral side coming up into the joint space here. So again, it's if the patient's laying on the table, the knee is too high in comparison to the plane of the ankle. So we need to build this whole ankle up, not just the calcaneus or the toes, but we have the lateral side of the talus here, which means the entire ankle needs to be built up, and that'll bring our medial side into superimposition with the lateral side. And again, if the patient was standing and weight bearing, the knee is, if we're looking at the patient from this angle, the knee is coming towards us too far. They're favoring this ankle because they have ankle pain, which is obviously is why we're x-raying it. But what we need to have them do is push that knee back against the bucky, have them center the knee directly over the ankle, and that'll bring that medial side back up into superimposition with the lateral side, and we'll get that joint space showing really well. We basically have our medial side here, and then we have a little bit of the lateral part of the talus coming out anteriorly, which means that it's too medially rotated, right? So our toes are either too high off the table, or our calcaneus is too low, which means we can just build this calcaneus up, pulling it off the table slightly, and that will cause us to rotate this part of the ankle and get that superimposition that we want. Medial side, lateral side, and we can see this lateral part of the talus is covering up our joint space here. And if you're not paying attention, just by first glance you can look at this and you see that definitive white line, and you can be like, oh, it's a perfect lateral ankle. But if you're not paying attention and you miss this part right here telling you that the lateral side is rotated too high, you could probably send that through thinking it's a really good image, when in reality the ankle, if this patient was laying down, the ankle is too low compared to the knee, or if they're standing, again, the knee is coming towards us and off the bucky. We need to push that knee back against the bucky, and that'll raise the medial side, lower the lateral part of the talus, and get that perfect superimposition. If the patient's laying down, we need to raise the entire ankle and build it up off the table, and that'll give us our superimposition here, because it's not so much a rotation issue. It's not sticking out too far anteriorly or posteriorly, so we can't really rotate the ankle medially or laterally to fix this. We have to raise the entire ankle up off the table to get this joint space to open. Another really good picture of the medial side, very bright white line here, and then we can see a little bit of the lateral side coming out here. Is it a repeatable image? I mean, it may or may not be, depending on your protocol or depending on the tech, but this being that it's sticking out anteriorly and superiorly, I would build this calcaneus up. I would rotate it medially or rotate the toes laterally to close this and get it superimposed, and I would also raise the entire ankle up off the table slightly to superimpose this part onto the medial side to open that joint space. So I would do two things. I would rotate laterally or build the calcaneus up, and then also lift the entire ankle up to open that space there. So there you have it, guys, your definitive guide for a lateral ankle. If you like this video, smash the like button and share it with your friends. If you want to see more videos like this one, visit bariumjunkie.com, pick up some merch, help support this channel. Thanks for watching. Peace.